one of the big things that we are seeing in this election cycle, not only obviously on the national scene, but even on the ground here locally, is just the volume of people who want to participate, who want to have their voices heard, now perhaps more than ever. And also, I think in the past, what we've seen in previous elections are more narrow topics that maybe people are interested in and casting their vote in relation to those topics. But now that lens has been widened so much. And so there are new topics that are being brought to bear. Obviously, a lot of my work over many years here in Austin has been on criminal justice and law enforcement issues. And yet at the same time, unless you're talking about, for example, a district attorney's race or a sheriff's race, those topics aren't really part of the conversation. But now we're seeing those types of topics, new topics that we've really not seen before ever. And if we have, it's been at least a considerable amount of time. We're seeing those being brought into the political conversations in races beyond the standard races where those types of topics might be part of the conversation. Here locally, we had a Democratic primary runoff in July. And it was interesting to see how the George Floyd protests, the death of George Floyd that happened in May, how that really shifted not only the national conversation, but the conversation here locally. And that is something that I think it really exemplifies what we have been seeing in recent months and really are seeing even in this moment. I think it's going to be very, very different. I think we're going to see changes literally in how we vote. And what I mean by that is that we will all be voting in a pandemic. So standing in line, we're going to all be cautious about standing at least 6 feet apart. Many people, if not all people, will be wearing masks. Things like plexiglass between the polling workers and the voters themselves. So literally, there are going to be changes in how we actually vote, very physical changes because of the pandemic. But I also think in addition to that, more people are going to want to have their voices heard in this election cycle, maybe now more than ever before. Something obviously that is unique in Texas, that this will be the first time in the state of Texas where people cannot vote straight party tickets. So you can't walk into a voting booth and pull a lever for one specific political party. You're going to have to go down each race and cast your ballot. And so that is a shift that we are seeing for the first time in Texas this year. And when you look at some major Texas counties, Harris County, for example, in Houston, we're talking about dozens, if not more, candidates, maybe more than 100 candidates in some counties, particularly the more populated counties across the state. I think it's impossible to guess, but this is what I will tell you about that. Nothing we have seen in this year has been consistent with what we have ever seen before. So I think who knows? And I think anybody who tries to guess at this point, good for them. But I don't think I'm going to. I will say that I think it's unlikely that we have an answer, at least on the presidential race that night.